So welcome to my latest video in my installment series of why social media is a shitty place to learn about the law of attraction. Um, Joking, kind of. Uh, you know, I've been talking over the last week or so a lot about this, just about how social media in general, YouTube and Reddit specifically, um, there's so many flaws about how the law of attraction is explained and how people talk about it on here and on Reddit. Up until this past year or so, I just tried to ignore that to the best of my abilities, which really was intelligent for me. And for whatever reason, I think mainly, I wrote The Law of Attraction Simplified last year, and I wanted more people basically to be aware of this information. So gradually, over the past year or so, I found myself exploring more what people are into on social media when it comes to LOA. And it was an interesting time to do it because, as we've talked about, Neville's stuff has really exploded on social media over the last year. It's gotten his stuff's become more and more popular the last couple of years, but it seems like we've reached this real turning point in the last year or so where Neville's stuff is just everywhere, which again in many ways is great because more people are getting exposed to his stuff. But what blows me away is the lack of intelligence when it comes to people talking about Neville's advice. It blows me away. And again, there's the caveat, some people are talking about it intelligently. That goes pretty much without saying. And I'm going to link above or below to, my regurgitated Neville video I made, because some of you are probably wondering what the hell I'm talking about. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to me how unoriginal people are discussing Neville's advice and how dogmatic they are. And this really hit home for me the other day because I made a post on Reddit pointing out something that I thought was somewhat obvious but incredibly important about kind of judging Neville's advice on its merits, which, he basically says, I'll link to the post below, but basically he says that, you have to become Christ, and then you'll do the quote unquote miracles that Christ did. And that's how you know if you've really actualized the teaching. And then in The Power of Awareness, he says something like, only 1 out of a million people really understand this. I read stuff like that and I understand where he's coming from. And at the same time, I read stuff like that and I'm like, this guy has completely unrealistic expectations for people. His success rates in terms of getting people to really successfully apply his information are going to be low if those are the standards. He obviously probably meant it at least partially in a spiritual way, right? Where it's like spiritual understanding means you become like Christ. And, so many great spiritual teachers say, out of 1,000 people that find me, only 1 out of 1,000 are genuinely interested. And out of the 1,000 more people have to find me before there's one who really gets it. So that's like 1 out of a million, right? So I'm sure Neville meant something like that. But my point is, I've always thought that Neville has really high standards for applying his advice, which is one reason he's interesting. But that's totally skirted over. And I also think the fact is that we all fail in applying Neville's advice much more than we want to acknowledge, at least on social media. And you look at success rates with applying law of attraction advice, and somebody like Emile Coué or Maxwell Maltz, their advice, you're going to have a much higher success rate if you try to apply that, in my opinion, than Neville's advice. At least most of us are. I've gone over all of this before. Anyway, I made this post on Reddit, and I just feel like it went over everybody's head. because usually when I post on Reddit, I get a lot of responses and stuff, but I didn't get a lot of responses, and I'm like literally it just went over people's heads. And that's how I feel about Neville in general in social media, and about the law of attraction in many ways in social media, a lot of the time, where these people have these huge YouTube channels and they're talking about it, but it's like everyone just seems to miss the point. Well, my YouTube channel, which I don't in many ways really care that much about, is not going to be like that. It's a small niche channel. Even if it becomes big, it's nichey. And I want to let you know that if you want to contact me, email me. All right. Use the email form on my website on radicalcounselor.com, or just email me at info@radicalcounselor.com. And I say that because I wasn't even going to do YouTube videos when I started the podcast. I was just going to do the podcast. I wanted to put the podcast episodes on YouTube. I did. I started getting comments. I wasn't going to comment on those comments. I wasn't going to respond. And I kind of felt bad because people were asking some decent questions. So I started responding to the comments. And I've gotten a lot of good comments on this YouTube channel about, stuff I talk about. So I've responded. That said, I'm sorry, because I have gotten a lot of good comments. Unfortunately, that's not a good enough reason for me to continue to respond to comments. If you want to contact me, I'm a personable guy. I'm usually very good at responding to emails. Email me, okay? I'm no longer responding to comments on this YouTube channel. And if you seriously want to contact me, you know how to do it. And again, I've been ranting about this stuff so much just because it's worth ranting about in this weird way. Because I really want people to recognize how skewered the dynamic is when you try to learn about the law of attraction via social media, and how there's a better way. And that better way, in my opinion, is reading the original source material, or finding somebody to work with who really, goes at this stuff holistically, or, listening to audiobook versions of these books, or listening to my podcast. So, hope that was helpful, and enjoy your day.